Hello aspirants, welcome to another session of the daily newspaper analysis. This video is brought to you by the Gurudev Academy. My name is Ashwin. Before we begin, since we had president election yesterday, the Hindu in its edition, in the Delhi edition, they have posted few questions relating to the procedure of the election as well as the president. So I'll be posting those questions at the last, as usual, we are going to post the regular questions from the newspaper. Do write the answers in the comment section. These questions are very helpful when we look at through your prelims perspective. Fine. So looking at the questions that we had in the yesterday's newspaper, from the yesterday's newspaper. So first, ESZ norms that we did yesterday. If you have not read about the ES norms, you can check it out in the yesterday's video. So ES norms have been mentioned in which Environment Conservation Act? We looked at it yesterday. The answer is B. Okay, 1986 Environmental Protection Act of 1986. Second question, Abraham Accord is related to. This is very important. Abraham Accord is very important when it comes to West Asia. Okay, so this accord was signed during the Donald Trump administration, where Israel is trying to normalize its ties with few Arab countries here. Okay, so the answer is Israel and Sunni Arab countries. Then which is India's first indigenous nuclear ballistic missile submarine? Okay, this is also very important. We saw the answer is INS Aryan. Okay, it is the first nuclear powered ballistic missile submarine. Because of this achievement, India has now completed nuclear triad. I explained it in the yesterday's video. If you have not checked the video already, please do check it out. Fourth one, which of the following country shares its border with Indonesia? The answer here is Malaysia. Okay, the answer is Malaysia. Rest of the countries are nearby to these countries, but Malaysia shares the border with Indonesia here. Then okay, so today we first start with the editorial here. The first editorial talks about the 5-day work week. Okay, since the pandemic, the culture of work from home has taken a huge support. So we are moving to a culture to where it more than the 5-day culture that is prevailing right now in all these industries. There is going to be a 4-day work culture. Fine. So before we start, we have to know how it began actually. So previously there was no proper hourly work culture, but Henry Ford, okay, he brought this 40-hour work culture that is right now present. Okay, 40-hour work culture that we have is 8 into 5, that 8 days, 8 hours of work into 5 days. So this is the present work culture, and it was really firstly brought out by Henry Ford here. So, and then some of the economists like Keynes, okay, Keynes has predicted that when his grandchildren will be working, they will be working for around 15 hours a week. Why? Because as we move forward, the productivity will increase in the next generations. The productivity will increase with the less work hours. That is what the intention of this article is. So when the world has been experimenting with this 4-day work culture here. The article has given here few of the trials that have been done, but we'll look at the first main trial that was done by the Microsoft here. So Microsoft started this 4-day work culture with 8 hours per day of 4 days and 3 days of weekend. Okay, 3 days of weekend was not what allotted to the workers of Microsoft. Then with the 5-day paychecks only. Okay, 5-day weeks paycheck only that was given. What was the result? The result was 40% increase in the workers productivity. Fine, it increased. Okay, this work culture increased the productivity of the Microsoft workers. And also, what was the result here? The result was less burnout as well as increased job satisfaction. See, with the less hours, okay, with the less hours, what will happen is less hours of working. What will happen is the workers, the employee and the employer both are comfortable. Why? Because a fresh minded worker who is not burned out, who is relaxed, okay, he works better, his productivity will be higher. That is what was shown in this trial here. And then when we look at the result of the overall trials that have been mentioned in this article, firstly, it is increasing the work productivity, or the work productivity is constant here. As I mentioned earlier, less burnout, more job satisfaction and higher the work productivity here. Secondly, lower commuting. Okay, it is the positive impact of environment. Fine. So even with the work from home culture that is prevailing right now, even with that, okay, we saw how much of it had a positive impact on environment. So when there is 4-day work culture as well, what will happen is there is less commuting that is happening from home to work, and less use of fossil fuels, and less and greater the impact on environment here. Thirdly, fall in electricity consumption and cut cost. Okay, so fall in electricity consumption, that is that it was observed that almost 23% of the fall in electric consumption. This will help again in your positive impact on environment, as well as it will help the companies to cut the cost and invest in improving its work condition, or use this additional investment in improving the production capacities. Okay, so this is again a good one. Then it revives employment rate. Okay, it revives employment rate because more people are interested in work. More people want to find a job which is less stressful here. That is what the result of the trial. Fourthly, the article in detail, the editorial in detail has explained about the gender equality and the women career progression. Okay, fine. So when we are already in this 5-day work culture, what is happening is the women, okay, they are not able to find enough time for daycare. Okay, so the child care and the daycare may increase with this 4-day work culture. Also, there may be pay equality. Okay, so once these female workers become mother, what may happen is since they are not able to balance this work life pressure, they will start working for less wages for less hours. But when this three days weekend is allotted to them, then they may start working for higher wages, and we may see that pay equality may prevail in these industries. Then it will push men to participate in domestic work. Okay, these all, the child care, your pay equality, push men to participate in domestic work. These all will help the female workers here to have a proper work-life balance. Okay, these are the positives that have been come out from these trials. But what are the drawbacks? Okay, the drawbacks here are the model is not the same for every sector. Like, see, since this model is fine for workers who are working in service sector, but imagine if a hairdresser he cannot cut more hairs just because he has to work for less. Okay, so this model cannot be adopted by all industries. This model has to be adopted studying more other industries. Okay, this is one of the drawback of the result of this trial. Secondly, 4-day work week, 10-hour working days. Okay, so sometimes what may happen is some countries are doing this way to inculcate this 4-day work culture. They are increasing the 10-hour work day per working hours, whatever it is there, they are increasing it so that this 4-day work culture may prevail. But what may happen, as we saw, okay, the negative may be burnout, okay, stress, okay, less motivation to work. Fine, these are the issues that may come up if this 10-hour work culture is adopted by countries. Okay, then the third one is less holiday entitlement. Sorry, so less holiday entitlements, we mean that, see, we are getting already 3-day weekend here. So what may happen is the company may cut down the total holidays that are allocated by that company in a year. So this is a drawback again. When we look at the Indian scene here, okay, Indian scene, there was again a study conducted by Genius Consultants, okay, Genius Consultants, and they found out that 60% of the total workers that are employed, they are happy with the 4-day culture. They believe that if this 4-day work culture is being implemented, then the productivity in their respective sector will rise. This is one of the studies that was conducted. And what is the central government doing here? The central government here will be implementing the new labor code. I want you all to look at this labor code. It is very important. So please look at it. It will be implemented this year only. So just have a look. What are the provisions? Okay, it becomes very important when it comes to your exams. Then what is the labor code say here? Labor code is saying 4-day work week. Okay, 4-day work week, that is 4 into 12 hours. Fine. The central government, whereas every other government across the world are implementing 8-hour culture, 8-hour per day culture, the central government is thinking about having 4-day work with with your 12 hours per day work. So this is going to be, this will create a lot of problems, as we saw. Okay, as we saw in the previous slide as well, that 4-day work week, to implement it, it has to be balanced with the per day work week as well. But if the center here is deciding to have 12 hours work week, then it is going to cause a lot of problem. It is going to cause a lot of stress among the working population here. So what can the government do here? The government can reduce the work days. Okay, as we mentioned it, 12-hour work days is a very long long working hour for employees, so it has to reduce that. Then keeping number of hours fixed. Okay, number of hours, it has to be fixed to a certain hours, and it has to be maintained by every industry in this country. Thirdly, better rested workers. As we saw earlier, better rested workers are better workers than this long hustle culture that is prevailing in this industry. Fine. So this is the overall article here. So once the labor code is implemented, okay, we have to see if any changes are being made. Once the labor code is implemented, and once this 4 days week culture comes up, this article becomes very important. This editorial becomes very important. Moving ahead, so India's climate imperative. Okay, so there are different indexes that are being released by different organizations, like climate vulnerability index, climate change risk index, world risk index. Okay, all these measure how much of a country will be vulnerable to climate changes. Okay, how much it is going to be impacted. When we look at the overall rankings, India is going to be most affected by climate change. Why? See, you have to note down one point here, that climate change is going to mainly affect agriculture, and India is a agriculture dependent country. So when agriculture is so much impacted, the overall population, population is impacted in the form of food security, in the form of employment. Okay, so all these factors are going to create a lot of stress in our society when climate change comes up. So here the editor, the writer here has mentioned that India has two approaches to combat this climate change. First is building resilience against the climate hazards that have been happening. The article at the start mentioned some of the climate hazards that we have been witnessing, some of the super cyclones that have been affecting us this year only. The heat wave, it was intense. Okay, in the monsoons as well, we have seen in the previous video how monsoon temperature are higher than the summer temperatures that we had. Okay, so climate change is real. Climate change has been affecting us. So here the writer says that there are two approaches for India to combat this climate change. First is building resilience, as I told. Second is mitigation. Mitigation is so that no more effects, no more climate change takes place in the already damaged environment. Fine. So firstly, when we look at the resilience, okay, when we look at the resilience, we'll be looking at the problems, or cause of the problems, as well as the solutions that are given in this article. Firstly, heat wave. Okay, they talk about the heat wave. As I mentioned earlier, the temperature this year will vary on the higher side. So heat wave, it is mainly caused of two reasons, that is deforestation as well as land degradation. Okay, so deforestation and land degradation, these are the two factors that are affecting the heat waves in our country. So what does the writer say here? The writer says here that the solutions are afforestation. Okay, by afforestation, the heat wave, okay, it can be, the temperatures can be brought down. Secondly, why afforestation? Okay, briefly when I tell you, see this greenhouse gas. Okay, these greenhouse gases, they create artificial heating. Okay, they create artificial heating of the land. So to avoid this, deforestation is afforestation is the best solution here. Next, less water intensive crops. See, India is a large producer of rice, paddy. Okay, sugarcane. Okay, so these are all water intensive crops. They need a lot of water for their growth. So when such water intensive crops are grown at a large scale, or over the total area that is available to us, then what is happening is it is contributing to the heat waves again here. Okay, then weather based crop insurance schemes. Okay, we already have this in India, that is your Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. Okay, so this weather based crop insurance that we already have, it covers not only pre harvest damages, it also covers the post harvest damages. Okay, so here that is one of the solution. Lastly, he says about diversification of crops. See, when diversification of crops happen, what will happen is it not only ensures food security, it also ensures that the soil, it maintains its health. Okay, the soil health is maintained. Also, the land degradation is less when there is multi crop culture developed. Fine. So that is what how we have to combat the heat wave. Then flood and storms. Okay, the floods and storms here are natural, they happen due to natural causes. But why does it affect India much? It affects India much because the coastline erosion, okay, coastline erosion that is happening. This coastline erosion is happening mainly for the illegal construction or mining that is taking place in India. So here the writer gives few solutions for it. Firstly, he asks us to have a proper guideline to avoid construction. We already have this guidelines. We have something called as EEZ. We also have that ecological sensitive zones, ESZ, that we saw yesterday. So such type of constructions that is happening in the coastlines as well, that has to be reduced. Then map flood risk zones. Okay, so when you map this flood risk zones, what will happen is so you can prepare early plan. You can mitigate these maps, these flood risk zone easily. Thirdly, environment impact assessment. See, whenever a project is being approved, environment impact assessment is compulsory in India. We have to see whether such project is how much it is damaging the ecology that is present there, as well as the people, the tribes, and the forest habitats that are living there. Fine. So this EIA has these rules have been relaxed from few years to accommodate more construction projects. So EIA, that is your environment impact assessment, has to be more strict here. Thirdly, flood resistant houses. The writer here mentions some of the flood resistant houses that have been built in Kerala, as well as the other type of flood resistant houses that can be built. This can be a very good solution when it comes to floods and storms. Nextly, when we look at the adoption, okay, when we look at the adoption, the most famous adoption that everyone says is moving away from the fossil fuels. Here again, you have to diversify, okay, diversify energy basket. Okay, you have to diversify your energy basket by renewable energy. Okay, renewable energy. When you diversify your energy basket, then the use of fossil fuels will come down. Secondly, protecting and expanding green cover. So India has agreed on India has some of the programs like RED, okay, RED plus. Okay, so all these programs, what they're trying to do is they're trying to restore the degraded land by planting more trees. Okay, such types of programs have been running. Thirdly, laws to protect forests during land acquisition. As I said again, your environment impact assessment has to be more strict whenever there is land acquisition being done in some forest area, some protected area. So laws have to be more stringent at that point of time. Third, repair and reconstruction of old dams. See, India has a large connection of dams that are available, and these dams, some of the dams are over 100 years. Fine. So World Bank has already started program where it is helping few of the states, including Karnataka, which is trying to restore these old dams, repair these old dams. Okay. So such adoption, when they are taken, it also helps in protecting the climate, protecting us against the climate change. Thirdly, share in the disaster management. Okay, so the disaster management, whatever the fund is being allocated, it is very less. It has to be increased to 2.5% of the GDP. Okay, it is not only talking about the budgetary allocation, it is also talking about the large scale funding as well as the small scale funding. The large scale funding, mainly it is done by some of the important institutions, international institutions like World Bank. There is provision under UNFCCC Paris Agreement, where the developed countries have to give financial help to the developing countries as well as least developed countries to mitigate the climate change impacts. Fine. So such large scale fundings become important to adapt against climate change. Secondly, talks about small scale funding. See, World Food Program here is running a program in Nepal and Bhutan, which is helping the local population to have climate risk free agriculture cultivations. Fine. So when such funding is done, when such funding is allocated to least developed countries as well as developing countries, then the adoption will be proper. Then states. Okay, states can take the help of union resources. Okay, the union government has the resources both in terms of financially as well as technologically. Okay, so these resources financially and technology can be used to have early meteorological warnings. So if some mishap is going to happen, if there is early flood prediction, if there is early drought prediction, then what will the states can take necessary steps. So for that, the central resources have to be taken help of. Next, Manrega funds for climate change adoption. See, Manrega work mainly is concentrating right now on climate change issues, like the rural infrastructure that is built. It is getting they are building. Sorry, the Manrega infrastructure, whatever is being constructed, it is constructed to make these rural areas climate resistant, because most of the agriculture takes place in rural areas. That is why Manrega also becomes important. At last, the article says that see, until and unless we treat climate change as a wrath of mother, okay, it is a wrath of our mother earth. It is like our mother earth is very angry, and it is showing its anger in the form of all these disasters. Until and unless we consider climate change in this definition, the climate change will be impacting us more. But once we consider climate change as the problem created by the humans, created by us, and we start and when we start taking this two-pronged approach to combat the climate change, then only that is the only real solution for this problem. Fine. Okay, coming to the Hindu explain section. So one of the article that I have picked up for explanation is the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. See, in the previous two videos, we have done what Shanghai Cooperation Organization is. I'm not going to explain what the structure of this organization is. You can look at the previous videos, what is the structure and who are the members and who are the new members. Here I'm going to just look at the two issues, that is the relevance of SCO to India as well as countering the West. Okay. So firstly, relevance of India. What is the relevance of India to SCO? Okay, so when we look at SCO and the composition of its member, the overall objective of SCO here is that the members can use the platform to discuss with other members on some issues. Okay, they can discuss on the sidelines of some of the other issues. This objective was used by India twice. Firstly, it was used in 2018 when the Prime Minister had a discussion with the Prime Minister of India had the discussion with Prime Minister of Pakistan. Fine. So here and also in 2020, okay, when we had heightened tensions in LAC, our Foreign Minister, he had a productive talk with Yi Wang, that is the Chinese Foreign Minister. Okay, so overall, the SCO, when it comes to India has been using this platform to resolve some of its issues that it has with the members of SCO on the sidelines of the normal discussions that takes place. Then, secondly, when we look at, see, India here is not only a member of SCO, it is also a member of Quad. Okay, so when we look at both the members here, member countries, they are very opposite. Like on the Quad, we have US, Japan, Australia, and then in the SCO, we have the main members like Russia and China. Okay, so these countries, when we look at, they all have one or the other issue. Like Japan has issue with China, Russia has issue with US. Okay, so these countries are not coordinating in geopolitics, but India is the member of both. Fine. So India is the member of both. Why? Because India has, under its foreign policy, one of the main objective of our foreign policy is strategic autonomy and multi-alignment. Fine. So India has always been India has always advocated NAM, that is non-aligned movement. India has not aligned to any of the bloc. India is not in the bloc of West, or it is not in the bloc of East. Fine. India has been multi-aligned. India has always participated in this multilateralism. Fine. So India here, it is fulfilling its objective of multi-alignment by joining the SCO, as well as strategic autonomy. Strategic autonomy here, we mean that India is not influenced by any countries when it makes its decision. Even when we look right now, India is very close with the US, India is very close with the European countries, but still India is buying oil from Russia because the oil, okay, it is available cheaply for us from Russia. So India is strategically autonomous. It does not get influenced by any country's decision or what is the scenario of that country. Fine. So these are the two relevance for India here. Then when we look at countering the West, okay, so whenever the SEO is in news, the Western media projects SEO as something which is countering the West. It sometimes something because why? Because Russia and China both are involved here. They think that and also you have to, as you all know, SEO is a military organization. So they think that the West always thinks that SEO is countering NATO here. But we have seen, okay, SCO is just a military talk organization. It does not have its own army like we have in NATO. Fine. So when we look at the points here, these points make us clear whether it is really SCO is really countering the influence of West here. Firstly, sanctions on Russia. Okay, so present war, okay, as well as the China's as well as the Russia's invasion in Crimea in 2014. Okay, so all these have invited a heavy financial sanctions on Russia here. So all these sanctions, when Russia is struggling with the sanctions, Russia has been using such platforms where West is not present, like SEO. Okay, SEO, by using SEO, what Russia is trying to do? Russia is trying to counter the influence of West here. Fine. So so SEO is very important for Russia. Then Russia, China, and West. When we look at this angle, see, Russia and China right now are having different issues with the West. When we look at China, China's issue is that China is having this economic war that is going on with US, as well as some of the European countries are not happy with the rise of Chinese economic power. China is trying to be a superpower. So China, through this SEO, it is trying to assert its dominance in world. It is trying to assert and show to the world that the West, that China can survive without the West, with all these regional members that are present in SEO. Thirdly, Iran. Okay, see, Iran is the newest member of SEO. Iran has always had this policy of look east. Why? Because it has always had troubles since the Islamic revolution that happened in Iran. Iran has been under a lot of pressure, sanctions that has been happening from the West. Fine. It has also problems with the neighbors like Saudi Arabia. Okay, it is the only Sunni Shia dominated country in the West Asia. Whereas in yesterday video we saw how the Sunni Arab countries are trying to counter Iran with the help of Israel. Fine. So when such things are happening with Iran is trying to forge new partnerships with new partners here. Okay, India has been a traditional member of traditional partner of Iran. But since the JCPOA, okay, as I mentioned yesterday, JCPOA was the agreement where the West was going to lift the economic sanctions on Iran, and Iran was going to stop enriching the uranium. But since the deal was cancelled by Trump, the pressure is now exerted on India to stop having good relation with Iran. We already have seen how much the relation has spoiled. See, we had this Chabahar port which India was developing, which is in Iran. Through Iran, we were going to connect to Afghanistan, and through Afghanistan, we were going to connect the Central Asian countries and the European countries for trade. But since Chabahar port now, India has lost this Chabahar port, the agreement, it is given to China now. And also Iran used to provide us with so much of oil. But now, since the sanctions, okay, India is not able to buy the Iranian oil. And after the India stopped buying Iranian oil, there was rise in oil prices as well. Fine. So these are the implications. Then Belarus, okay. Belarus here, it is the newest member. Belarus does not have that much significance in world politics, but when it comes to Russia, it has a lot of significance. Why? Because it is directly supporting Russia in the war on Ukraine. It has allowed Russia to use its land, okay, to pass through its land to invade Ukraine from the north. Okay, so when such geopolitics is happening, okay, when this type of organization SEO, okay, it is trying to exclude the West, it is trying to cancel out the influence that the West has been making on the Asian countries as well as the other countries. Fine. So such grouping becomes important. These are the 2 points I wanted to explain, that is relevance for India as well as the countering the West. So moving on. Okay, this article is about the minority status in India is state dependent. Okay, so what is the issue here? Here the issue is that the Supreme Court here has said that the Article 29 and 30, okay, which protects the minority rights of both the religious as well as linguistic rights. So what the Supreme Court here is saying is that the rights are not only applicable in those states where they are recognized as minorities, they are also applicable in other states as well. Like for example, okay, under Article 30, if some minority in from state A is a minority in that state, and if he wants to establish a educational institution in state B where he is not a minority, then it should be allowed. If it is not allowed, it is infringing his fundamental right. That is what the issue here is. Okay, so Article 29 and 30, it deals with the linguistic as well as the religious minorities. Moving ahead, see, this year we had this news going around. One of the issues that has been is that Hindus should be recognized as minorities in few states where they are where the population is less. Fine. So in March, okay, in March, this plea was given here. The plea also had said that this National Commission for Minority Education Act of 2004, which recognizes the minorities, which gives the minority status at the center, this has to be cancelled out. This organization, the power should be taken away from this organization. Again here, so when this plea was taken up by the Supreme Court asked the center about its views. Firstly, okay, in March, the center said that the states have the right. Okay, the states have the right to declare any minority. If they feel they are a minority, they can declare them as and give them the minority status. Fine. This was in March, but again in May. Okay, again in May of 2020. The center said that no, the states don't have this right, only the center has this right. Okay, so this case is slated for August 30. Okay, the case is going to be heard again by the Supreme Court on August 30. So we will wait and see what the Supreme Court has to say. We will also look at the responses given by the centers. Once this is taken up, once the proper case is being devised, once the case is heard and the responses are taken, we will look at this matter again. Fine. So these are the articles that are important in today's newspaper. You can follow us on these social media handles. You can follow us on Twitter. You can follow us on YouTube, Telegram, Instagram, Facebook. We are not on Twitter, but soon we'll be on Twitter. So thank you. See you all.